Former Walmart employees, what are your horror stories? Working there as a cashier since October. Christmas Eve rolls around, and thank God I'm not scheduled to work. Cue phone call from the manager asking why I haven't come in yet that day. I'm not on the schedule. Manager, yes, you or me. I'm not coming in. I wasn't on the schedule. Next day I worked was the day after Boxing Day. Went and looked at the schedule, and lo and behold, someone wrote that I was supposed to work in pencil. I quit shortly after. Not so much a horror story. I worked in grocery as a stocker. We had just finished a cereal display near the front of the store compiled of about 100 boxes. In comes an older lady around 60s driving one of the electric carts. She's looking dead on at the display and promptly rams into the thing. Boxes go everywhere, and she starts apologizing over and over and explains that she's legally blind. A customer that was nearby and saw everything asked her how she drove here if she was blind. She responded by quickly turning around and leaving the store. Once I had a woman who was giving me a hard time about a coupon that was expired. Coupon people are the worst. She refused to give up. She really wanted that $1 off. My line was really getting long, and I was getting really frustrated. So I reached in my pocket and pulled out a $5 and said, "If I give you a $5, will you give up on this coupon?" She got pissed and said, "I can't believe you said that to me." She told the CSM, but I didn't get in trouble for it. I sprained my back moving product in the back. At first I thought it was a pulled muscle, and walked towards the pharmacy to try and buy heating pads and some Tylenol. I made it to jewelry, barely keeping conscious from the pain. I asked my coworker to call management and let them know I had hurt myself pretty badly and needed to go to the hospital. Management told her to have me go to the back office to fill out paperwork. I blacked out twice going back and was yelled at for taking so long. I ended up being out for a month and a half for the injury and got a whopping $24 in workman's comp because the second I got hurt my hours were reduced to 1 hour a week. I hate Walmart. A lot of what I'm seeing in the comments are people who didn't know they had a lawsuit on their hands. Makes me feels like I should start a non-profit primarily focused on informing Walmart employees of their rights. 4 hours into my first shift, I was facing items on a bottom shelf while a coworker was facing items on the top shelf. She dropped a gallon of Gatorade on my head. Management refused to let me report the injury or leave to seek medical attention. I finished the shift, dazed and in pain. The next day I found out my skull was broken. Officially, since I was not allowed to report the injury, it didn't happen at work. I rage quit. A friend of mine was working part-time at Walmart. He'd been there for over a year, was working any and all positions/shifts they threw at him, so he could try to provide for his wife and unexpected new baby. He started to apply for any and all full-time positions as they really needed the benefits. One day management took him aside and told him this was not the Walmart way, and he needed to make a plan with steps on how to get to a particular position. Apparently, anything full-time is not okay. Walmart wants to help you achieve your specific goals. There was black mold in the dairy cooler. And I don't mean just a little patch. I mean all the way along the yogurt wall. The manager who was asked to clean it claimed he did. So naturally the higher-up management went to check his work. He hadn't even touched it. They ended up having to stand in there watching him disinfect the cooler from top to bottom. This was a well-known druggie, and it was too gross for him. A coworker witnessed one of the day shift meat department workers take a piece of meat that was almost green out of claims and put it back on the shelf. On top of that, for a good 3 months you could smell the expired meat from outside the meat cooler. Mine isn't as bad as some of those here, but it was its own special kind of awful. I worked on third shift for a summer between college years. The Walmart I was in had about 1 hour's worth of music playing over the speakers all night, playing on a non-stop loop. My sleep habits were already pretty fucked from trying to adjust to third shift, but the music is what really did it. I heard that same music loop over and over again, all shift 5 days a week. When I left the store, I would still hear it running in my head. Then I started hearing it in my dreams. Then it got so ingrained that I started just dreaming I was working my shift at Walmart. Several days a week, I would have the experience of working an entire 8-hour shift. Then just around quitting time, my alarm clock would go off, and I would wake up and go work an 8-hour shift. I quit a few weeks early at the end of the summer because I was losing my goddamn mind. As a cashier, we were required to know before we started the transaction if the customer was using WIC. So I am going about my business, and I go to start ringing the next customer up, and I see cheese, peanut butter, milk, eggs, and cereal. All of these are very common WIC items. I very nicely ask her if this is going to be a WIC transaction. That was my mistake because she blew up on me, calling me a stupid racist because I just assumed she had to have WIC. She told me that was why I was working at Walmart, because I was too dumb to actually go to college. I was in college at the time, with a school book under my register. It was really embarrassing, and I really didn't mean anything by it. I just didn't want to have to call a CSM over to void the transaction if I did it incorrectly. I always felt really awkward about asking if it was WIC for exactly this reason. A lot of the customers in my area with WIC just happen to be minorities. So instead of saying anything, I would just start scanning. They would usually wait to tell me it was WIC until after I was finished. Keep in mind, these were customers I had seen using WIC before, so they knew the drill. Ugh. Former cart pusher. Had an old lady try to tip me $1 after I helped her bring her newly bought plants or some shit to her car. Told her I couldn't accept it per company policy, and it was only $1, so I mean it wasn't particularly enticing. She then proceeded to roll over in her little scooter mobile and stuff it down the front of my pants. She chuckled dirtily as she rolled away. TLDR, took cold hard cash down my pants like a stripper. Not me, but this is my mom's Walmart horror story. She worked at Walmart when I was little, not even 4 yet. When I was little, I had some kind of recurring virus that caused me to develop a 104-degree fever and a severe case of hives. So one day while she is at work, my dad calls the store and tells her that I am very sick again. So of course, she goes to the manager and said she needed to leave because her baby was ill. They told her, "You need to choose between Walmart and your family." Her response was, "I gave birth to my child, not to Walmart, goodbye," and walked out. Red heart that lady. I do not work at Walmart, but I had to go there on Christmas Eve, and it was a horror show, not just because of the people, but because it was about 120 degrees in the store. Everybody was sweating and cursing, people fainting, and the employees were drenched in sweat. When I was at the checkout, the cashier said, "Welcome to Walmart," or as I like to call it, the surface of the fucking sun. I laughed so hard I cried. I miss that dude. Someone left a baby in a stroller just chilling in one of the aisles one night. I was a cashier at the time, so I don't know all of the details. From what I know, authorities got involved, and the guy came back after what we think was at least an hour or two, appearing oblivious to what he did wrong. Don't think he spoke much English, so it was just a confusing situation all around. Thank God for the guy stocking who was looking out. We're lucky it didn't get any worse knowing how crazy people who come through can be, let alone at night. What's weird was this wasn't even brought up again with my co-workers, so I don't recall what ended up happening to the guy. It was just another stupid thing we witnessed. Just read all these wasn't scheduled to work comments. Little lifesaver here. Always take pictures of the schedule, by phone or camera. Next time someone tries to tell you to work, send them the pic. Also, learn coworkers and bosses' phone numbers and ignore calls from those numbers during unreasonable hours of the day. Former overnighter here. We had an M/P truck came rolling in at 5 in the morning, for the one receiving had obviously gone home, so the overnight crew had to do it. The supervisor got on the intercom and barked that last break will not be called until the truck is unloaded. So we hang our heads and drag pallet jacks to receiving. All goes well until the last pallet. The associate using the jack somehow lost control of it, and it went flying down the ramp. It got caught at the very end, and the wrap immediately ripped open. It was the unholiest mess I have ever seen. Tomatoes, broccoli, really any kind of vegetable you can imagine strewn all over receiving. Only a few associates volunteered to stay behind and clean it, myself being one. The rest trotted off to the break room for their last break. It took a good half hour to clean up, and I was already behind schedule in my department. I took my break anyway, because fuck not having a break. I didn't have time to finish zoning my department, so I got yelled at for that the next night. I worked there for 2 weeks. I explicitly told him I can't work these days because I'm in college. So I get my first schedule after the training, and I'm supposed to work the 2 days I have class. I tracked my manager down, told her that I can't work those days. After telling them the days, I couldn't work about 5 times. The response I got was, "You should have told us beforehand." I quit that exact moment. Also, I made the mistake of greeting one of the higher-ups who pretty much looked away in disgust, but as soon as the store manager showed up there, he was all laughs and shit. Fuck that kiss ass. Not as an employee, but I went to Walmart at 5 in the morning to get some groceries with my friend. There was a middle-aged employee puking her guts out into a plastic bag while a younger female employee held her hair back. There was a giant puddle of vomit below her, so she either missed the bag a few times or tore through the last one. She was also sitting on the bag turner thing when this happened, and we still continued shopping. I worked at Kmart in Sydney, Australia for about a year and a half a few years ago. I was quickly promoted to the electronics section. Most of my job was printing photos and redirecting people to better equipped stores when they needed actual equipment. However, we also hosted the DVDs and CDs. It was here that I met my most memorable customer. She was a bald mid-30s woman who was morbidly obese with her stomach hanging out of her shirt. She also happened to have a partially smoked in her ear like an artist might have a pencil. She very sweetly asked me if they had this song and proceeded to sing it in full. When she was done, she could neither tell me title nor the artist. I did not recognize the tune, though not from her lack of talent. When she continues to look at me expectantly, I just told her we didn't have it. With this disappointing result, she began to waddle away from me. It was at this point she gave me these parting words. She turned back and said, "You look like my half-Indian classmate Andrew. I know you're not him though." And then, she walked out of my life. Worked as a cashier at a super Walmart as grocery store in college. I'm scanning produce and pull a bag of apples off the belt. I'm turning over one of them, looking for the PLU produce code. The customer leans towards me and politely informs me, "Those are apples." Give me a kindly smile. Cue my look of incredulity. Is this guy retarded? Or worse, he thinks I am because I work at Walmart. I wanted to say, "No shit, Sherlock, but I needed the job," so instead, "Really? Apples you say? I didn't know they still made those." Once upon a time, someone didn't change the price of steaks after the sale ended, and they didn't change it all day, even after customers started complaining. They got them at discount as a result, and it was my night manager who changed the price as soon as he found out the next morning. They expect night crew to do everything. I just have to say, all Walmart experiences are based on store level. I work at a store where a woman complained of chest pains, and associates not only called 911, but stayed with her until an ambulance arrived and management checked on her at the hospital. But I've had some associates without family that when they miss, we have associates check on them. So just because some stores lack in the personal department, not all do. So please don't judge because some have very caring managers and associates. Happened a few days ago. I had booked off 2 days for a surgery my girlfriend was having. Booked it off weeks in advance. I joked about it with her father, how I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to call me, and even though they knew why I was off. Not only did they call me, but when I reminded the manager what I was off for, they replied, "Well, what time is her surgery at?" Been with Walmart 3 years, and by far this story is one of my favorites. Working late one night, I noticed an older guy stumbled in wearing a long tan trench coat. He was taking huge steps like he was trying to do lunges or something. Next thing I know, 3 managers come from all directions, grab the guy, and walk to the back. I later found out that he was completely naked under the coat and was walking in big steps so that the coat would open up a little and expose his penis. But that wasn't the best part. In his drunken state, he had decided that drinking and driving was a bad idea. So he rode his horse to Walmart and parked it in a handicapped parking spot. The shit you see at Walmart. I worked at the Walmart deli for a few months in about 2005. You got all kinds of cliche and crazy clientele, but the most notable was the mother who came to the counter with her 2 daughters. The youngest must have been 8 years old, and when they turned to leave, it turned out this little girl was wearing a 2-piece outfit that read jailbait on the back of the sweater and pants. I was absolutely flabbergasted. People steal a lot from Walmart. Allegedly, prices vary depending on how much a given store loses from theft. So a store with high theft problems might charge 2% more for the same thing from an area with low theft issues. Also, when you catch someone trying to steal, the proper way to handle it is, "Oh, did you mean to purchase this item today?" Regardless of how they respond, they will probably be walking out with that item. We aren't supposed to stop them either. One guy, rightly, assumed that I thought he was stealing from the store. He was, and swung at me before rushing for the door with his cart. I don't know whatever happened to that dude, but I don't think the police ever got involved. I'm not former, I'm active. 8 years, actually. Hope that's okay. I had this old creepy guy who came up to me once and asked me if I was married. I politely responded yes, and he said, "Oh, I'm sure your wife is beautiful. Tell her she's beautiful because I love all the pretty girls." Okay, whatever. Then, in the next aisle, I see him talking to a good-looking mom and her young child. And next thing you know, he's handing the kid $1 and telling the mom she's good-looking. He did this about 5 times in my area of the store and continued to stop and tell me each time that he loves to come in and look at the beautiful women. I was almost tempted to call management or AP if he kept doing it, but he went off into some other area of the store and wasn't anywhere to be found. I haven't seen him since. Knock on wood. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.